Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into an important and impactful topic that will shape your future as educators: the relationship between ethics, human rights, and the law in education. Understanding these areas will empower you to become thoughtful, responsible teachers, capable of making informed decisions that benefit your students and the educational community. This is an interactive video, so be sure to keep an eye out for interactive hotspots that will provide additional information, as well as quiz questions that will appear throughout the video to test your knowledge. To start, take a moment to think about what ethics, human rights, and the law mean to you right now. Jot down a few key words that come to mind. We'll revisit these ideas later and see how your understanding evolves as we progress. Grab a notebook or open a document for note-taking. Ready? Let's get started. Before we jump in, let's begin with a reminder of our module objective. I can explain the philosophies and purposes of education, share my own teaching beliefs, and connect these beliefs to actions I will take as a future educator. Now let's turn to today's objectives so you know what to expect. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to 1. Explain how human rights, ethics, and law each play distinct roles in shaping your responsibilities as a teacher. 2. Identify and reflect on potential conflicts that arise between ethical responsibilities and legal requirements. As I walk you through these concepts, I encourage you to continuously ask yourself, what would I do in a challenging situation that involves both ethical dilemmas and legal obligations? We'll examine some real-world examples later, and you'll have an opportunity to share your thoughts. To help you stay organized, we'll also take a look at the roadmap for today's discussion. This outline will guide us through how we'll explore these important topics. Here's what we'll cover today. 1. Human rights in education. We'll discuss the basic rights and freedoms to which every student and teacher is entitled, and how these principles shape the educational environment. 2. Ethics in education. Next, we'll explore the moral obligations of teachers and how ethical guidelines inform your day-to-day decisions. 3. Law in education. We'll then review the formal laws, rules, and regulations that govern education, including key legal protections for students. 4. Where they intersect. We'll examine how human rights, ethics, and the law overlap and where conflicts can arise between these elements. 5. Challenges and conflicts. Finally, we'll look at real-life examples, such as zero-tolerance policies, where legal requirements might conflict with ethical considerations. 6. Closing and reflections. By the end of this lesson, you should have a clearer understanding of how these three elements, human rights, ethics, and law, shape your role as an educator. Let's now dive into our first topic, human rights in education. Let's begin with human rights. Human rights are basic freedoms and protections that belong to every person, regardless of background. In the context of education, this means that every student has the right to be treated with equality, dignity, and without discrimination. This includes access to necessary educational resources, a safe learning environment free from bullying or bias, and fair treatment across all aspects of school life. Teachers, too, have the right to work in an environment that respects their dignity and provides them with the support necessary to fulfill their roles effectively. We'll explore specific examples of how human rights are protected and promoted in schools in more detail. Now, we're going to watch a short video titled, "What Are Human Rights?" produced by the Youth for Human Rights organization. This video will give you insight into the origins and foundational principles of human rights. After watching, if you'd like to explore further, you can click on the link provided to order a free booklet from the organization that offers additional information about human rights. It's a great resource to deepen your understanding, so feel free to check it out. Now, let's shift our focus to ethics and education. Ethics refers to the moral obligations that guide professional behavior. In education, ethics center around values like fairness, respect, integrity, and equity. It is the teacher's ethical responsibility to create a safe and inclusive environment where every student has the opportunity to learn and grow. Ethical teaching also means upholding students' rights while promoting human dignity and justice in the classroom. Now that we've touched on the ethical side of things, let's explore how laws enforce these principles in schools. While ethics guide what you should do, laws define what you must do. Laws are formalized rules enforced by governments, designed to protect the rights and responsibilities of both teachers and students. In education, two key legal protections that you'll rely on are the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment. The First Amendment safeguards free speech, while the 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection for all students under the law. As we move deeper into these legal concepts, it's important to remember that laws and ethics don't always perfectly align. This can create gray areas where tough decisions have to be made. Let's first take a closer look at the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects fundamental rights, including freedom of speech, religion, and assembly. These rights are critical in schools, where students and teachers alike have the freedom to express their opinions, so long as it doesn't disrupt the learning environment. For example, a student wearing a T-shirt with a political message is generally protected under the First Amendment, provided that it doesn't cause significant disruption to learning or interfere with the educational process. Now let's take a closer look at how the First Amendment operates in schools. One famous example of the First Amendment protecting students' rights in schools is the landmark case Tinker v. Des Moines, 1969. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that students maintain their First Amendment rights even within school grounds. The case involved students wearing black armbands to protest the Vietnam War. The ruling established that students do not shed their constitutional rights to freedom of speech or expression at the schoolhouse gate. However, schools can limit speech if it significantly disrupts the learning environment. This creates a balance between free expression and maintaining a productive educational setting. Another important case is Board of Education versus PICO, 1982, which dealt with the removal of books from school libraries. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that school boards cannot remove books simply because they disagree with the content, as doing so violates students' rights to access information and ideas under the First Amendment. This ruling is often cited in debates about banned books and plays a crucial role in ensuring that students can explore diverse viewpoints within the educational system. Now that we've explored the First Amendment, let's move on to the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection under the law and ensures due process. In schools, this means that students cannot be treated unfairly based on their race, gender, or background. It also guarantees that students facing serious disciplinary actions, such as suspension or expulsion, have the right to a fair process, including the opportunity to present their side of the story. Now let's dive deeper into how the 14th Amendment applies in schools, especially in cases of disciplinary actions. The 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause prohibits schools from treating students differently based on characteristics such as race, gender, or background. One of the most influential applications of this principle was in the landmark case Brown v. Board of Education, 1954, which ended racial segregation in schools. This ruling was pivotal in ensuring that all students, regardless of race, have equal access to education. The legacy of this case continues to influence court rulings today, particularly in cases involving discrimination in schools. The 14th Amendment also plays a crucial role in ensuring fairness in school discipline. Its due process clause requires that students be given proper notice and an opportunity to present their side of the story before any disciplinary action, such as suspension or expulsion, is finalized. In the case Goss v. Lopez, 1975, the Supreme Court ruled that students must be given notice of the charges against them and the opportunity to explain their actions before facing disciplinary consequences. This ensures that school disciplinary actions are carried out fairly and justly. Now let's move on to see how ethics, law, and human rights intersect in the teaching profession. Now let's take a closer look at how ethics, law, and human rights intersect in education. As shown in this Venn diagram, ethics and law each play distinct roles, but both are rooted in the promotion and protection of human rights. On the left side of the diagram, we have ethics. This represents what you, as an educator, ought to do based on moral principles like fairness, integrity, and respect. Ethical teaching promotes human rights by ensuring that students are treated with dignity and equity in the classroom. On the right side, we have the law. This represents what you are required to do according to formal rules and regulations. Laws in education, such as those that protect students from discrimination, help enforce human rights and provide a framework for fair treatment. In the overlap, you can see that both ethics and law promote human rights. However, there are times when legal obligations may not fully align with moral considerations. Navigating this gray area is one of the complexities of being an educator. Let's now discuss some of the challenges that arise when ethics, law, and human rights collide in schools. One example is zero-tolerance policies, which mandate strict punishments for specific infractions. For instance, if a student brings a prohibited item to school, they might automatically face suspension, regardless of the circumstances or intent. While zero-tolerance policies are part of the legal framework, they can create conflicts with human rights and ethical considerations. These policies often disproportionately affect marginalized students, raising concerns about fairness and equity. In many cases, zero-tolerance rules do not account for individual circumstances, which can lead to harsh, unjust punishments that don't offer the student an opportunity to learn or grow from their mistakes. This creates an ethical dilemma for teachers. Should they follow the rules strictly, or should they advocate for approaches like restorative justice, which focuses on understanding the root causes of a student's behavior and helping them correct it? Next, we'll examine a real-life example of this tension: the Tennessee book bans. The recent book bans raise significant concerns regarding First Amendment rights, which protect freedom of speech and expression. By restricting students' access to a diverse range of viewpoints and ideas, these actions may infringe on their right to explore various perspectives, particularly on important social and cultural issues. This situation reflects a broader tension between local control, the authority that school boards and local governments have over educational content, and constitutional rights. While local authorities may believe they are acting in the best interest of students by restricting certain materials, these actions can conflict with students' rights to access information freely and without censorship. It's essential to recognize that balancing these two forces, local control and constitutional protections, poses complex challenges for educators, policymakers, parents, and students alike. Next, we are going to practice with scenarios. As you listen to each situation, consider the following questions. What legal and ethical rights are involved? What should the school do in this situation? Scenario 1. Student behavior and discipline. A first-grade student frequently disrupts the class by calling out without raising their hand. After multiple warnings, the teacher decides to give the student a detention. The student's parents complain, arguing that their child wasn't given a fair opportunity to explain their actions and that the punishment is too severe for the behavior displayed. Let's break down the questions, possible answers, and why the correct answers are the best choices for this scenario. Question 1. What legal principle should guide the teacher's actions in this case? Here's the options. A. The student's right to freedom of expression under the First Amendment. B. The student's right to due process under the 14th Amendment. C. The teacher's right to maintain order in the classroom. D. The parent's right to control their child's education. The correct answer is B. The student's right to due process under the 14th Amendment. According to the Goss v. Lopez, 1975 Supreme Court case, students must be given notice of any disciplinary action and have the opportunity to explain their behavior. This ruling ensures that students' rights to due process are protected, even in cases of minor infractions like detention. The teacher should have allowed the student to explain their actions before deciding on the punishment. Question 2. What might the teacher do to better align with due process principles in this situation? Here are your options. Options. A. Issue the detention immediately to set an example for the class. B. Allow the student a chance to explain their behavior before finalizing the punishment. C. Send the student to the principal's office to deal with the situation. D. Reduce the detention time but still impose the punishment. The correct answer is B. Allow the student a chance to explain their behavior before finalizing the punishment. To align with the principles of due process, the teacher should have given the student an opportunity to explain their side of the story before finalizing the decision to give detention. This helps ensure fairness and allows for a more informed disciplinary action. Question 3. Which ethical approach could the teacher take to ensure fairness while maintaining classroom order? Here are the options. A. Hold a private conversation with the student to understand the root cause of their behavior and set clear expectations moving forward. B. Impose the detention, but allow the student to apologize in front of the class to reduce the punishment. C. Ignore the behavior moving forward to avoid further conflict with the parents. D. Publicly announce the detention to discourage other students from misbehaving. The correct answer is A. Hold a private conversation with the student to understand the root cause of their behavior and set clear expectations moving forward. From an ethical standpoint, the teacher should focus on understanding why the student acted out by having a private conversation. This allows the teacher to address any underlying issues and set clear behavioral expectations for the future. This approach promotes fairness, supports the student's development, and maintains classroom order without unnecessary punishment. Let's move on to another scenario involving a 5th grade student who brings a poster to school advocating for animal rights. Without the teacher's permission, the student hangs the poster on the classroom wall. While some students agree with the message, others find it upsetting and distracting, which leads to classroom disruption. The teacher is now faced with a dilemma. Should the poster stay up to respect the student's right to express their opinions, or should it be removed due to the disruption it's causing? 1. What should the teacher consider when deciding whether to remove the poster? A. Whether the poster aligns with the school's curriculum on environmental issues. B. Whether the poster is significantly disrupting the classroom environment. C. Whether other students agree with the message on the poster. D. Whether the student has permission from their parents to express this view. The answer is B. Whether the poster is significantly disrupting the classroom environment. In Tinker v. Des Moines, 1969, the Supreme Court ruled that students have a right to express their opinions in school, as long as it does not substantially disrupt the educational process. The teacher should primarily consider whether the poster is creating a significant distraction or disturbance in the classroom, which would justify its removal. 2. If the teacher removes the poster, which rights might the student claim are being violated? A. The student's right to privacy. B. The student's right to due process under the 14th Amendment. C. The student's right to free speech under the First Amendment. D. The student's right to an education. Here the answer is C. The student's right to free speech under the First Amendment. By removing the poster, the student may claim that their First Amendment right to free speech is being violated. However, under the Tinker ruling, schools are allowed to restrict student expression if it causes a substantial disruption to the learning environment, which may apply if the poster is distracting other students. 3. If the teacher allows the poster to remain, what could be an appropriate next step to maintain a respectful classroom environment? A. Tell other students they must make their own posters to balance the message. B. Hold a class discussion about freedom of expression and how to respectfully engage with differing viewpoints. C. Ban all posters in the classroom going forward. D. Assign the student extra homework on the topic of animal rights to reinforce their message. The answer is B. Hold a class discussion about freedom of expression and how to respectfully engage with differing viewpoints. Ethically, the teacher should foster an environment where students feel free to express their views while promoting respectful dialogue. A class discussion can help students understand the importance of free speech and how to respectfully handle differing perspectives. This approach reinforces the Tinker ruling and encourages constructive conversations about individual rights and responsibilities. Let's now talk about the Code of Ethics for Educators. A Code of Ethics outlines a standard of practice and accountability for teachers, ensuring that they act with integrity, respect, and fairness in every aspect of their profession. These codes are essential in guiding ethical behavior and professional responsibility. For example, the Association of American Educators, AAE Code of Ethics, emphasizes the importance of personal integrity and respect for the law. As teachers, this means we are not only responsible for following school rules and legal requirements, but also for upholding the dignity of the profession through our personal actions and decisions. Meanwhile, In-Task Standard 9 focuses on the importance of continuous professional learning and ethical practice. This standard encourages teachers to continually reflect on their teaching methods, assess how their practices affect students, and adapt to meet the needs of each learner. These codes ensure that educators maintain high ethical standards, both in how we treat students and how we engage with our professional responsibilities. This table provides a closer look at some specific examples of codes of ethics from major educational organizations. The Association of American Educators, AAE, highlights the importance of maintaining the dignity of the teaching profession. Teachers are expected to obey the law and demonstrate personal integrity, ensuring trust between themselves, their students, parents, and the community. The In-Task standards place a strong emphasis on professional learning and ethical practice. They encourage teachers to reflect on their teaching practices and make ethical decisions that positively impact their students, families, and the broader community. Both of these codes provide a framework that helps educators navigate ethical dilemmas and make informed decisions throughout their careers. In closing, it's important to remember that ethics, human rights, and law are critical elements that shape the educational landscape. A deep understanding of these frameworks is essential for navigating the complexities of being a teacher, ensuring that you uphold students' rights while also adhering to both legal and ethical standards. By recognizing how ethics, law, and human rights intersect, you can make more informed decisions that promote fairness, equity, and justice in your classrooms. As you continue your journey toward becoming an educator, reflect on how these three areas will influence your actions and decisions. Strive to maintain a balance that supports both your students and the overall learning environment. Given everything we've discussed today, how do you think human rights, ethics, and law will each play distinct roles in shaping your responsibilities as a future educator? Take some time to reflect on this and consider how these elements will guide your teaching philosophy and decision-making processes.